Hi there, thank you so much for clicking the thumbnail and being interested in my work. In this video I share with you my techniques and tips on how I achieve the drawing and pastel painting of babies' feet. Be sure to watch it right through till the end, because here and there I'll be slowing things down in real time so you can take a closer look. So let's dive in and take a look. As I'm doing a freehand outline, what I tend to do is put a center point in my board and then a center point on the reference image. It's scaled up to 5 inch by 5 inch, this study is, so if you wanted to follow along with it. Now basically what I'm doing here is getting imaginary angles from that center point. So you imagine these angles, you're also using the edge of the 5 inch square as though it's maybe a part of a grid, one square grid, so you can sense the distance between things from the edge as well. So basically it's just using that and then just keeping everything drawn from that center. Now keeping my fingers are quite a distance away from that point of the pencil. This will keep all the marks nice and loose and light and free flowing. And I'm using a Faber-Castell putty rubber, which is an excellent putty rubber. I've tried all sorts of brands. This one seems to be the best. It don't damage the surface at all of the pastel mat, and it erases the marks very cleanly. Now the pencil I'm using is a Carbothello 708 grey pencil, which is a perfect colour for this dark grey pastel mat, because when you rub it out you don't see where that pencil's been. So it's a good one to use. So basically what I'm doing is comparing one shape against the other, holding the pencil on a vertical and a horizontal plane and just visually seeing where each element line with each other and using that as a guide. What I tend to do is just get things in lightly. So you just got to jump in there and place some marks down, and then just use your razor then to shape things up. So I'm more or less moulding the actual, or sculpturing the actual shapes to what I'm looking for. So just get some marks down, so that way it's more spontaneous, and it don't matter because you can just erase it out and then move it around. That's what I tend to do anyway. I just go for it. Now a trick that I've found helps is to keep your reference image quite small so you see the whole image, and it helps you to get the proportions more accurately. Little tricks you can do actually to see these things as well, like when you see the values, to squint the eyes you see the values more, to open the eyes you see the colour more. Now to see the outline, I've found that if you look from behind your eyes, it sounds a bit strange, but look from behind the eyes, it's like looking from the back of the head, it sort of cuts out the other details, but you just see the outline, and the outline tends to look strange. It's only when you start putting light and shade in there to create form that it looks like the subject you're actually drawing. This helps you to see the outline as what it is by looking from behind the eyes, so it's worth trying and experimenting with that. Now for the underdrawing, here's the pencils I'll be using for the flesh tones. Right, I'm just ghosting the image a little bit by using the needle or razor, just taking a little bit of that grey off. Slightly putting some white pastel in there now where the highlights are. And then just using the warm red and the yellow ochre in the sort of mid-tone area. The reason I do an underdrawing is to correct the outline. And just to sort of get some form in there before I start putting the heavy colours on. Now I didn't notice that these toes I'm working on now were too big until later on, but I do change it later on and they go to the correct size, but I'll show you how to do that later in this video. But using the blue, the red and yellow ochre mix, so you're using sort of like a primaries, so yellow ochre is the yellow, warm red, like vermilion red, and the ultramarine blue is for the blue, and that combination is really good for flesh colour tones. just use the colour now, just something similar for the background, just to get something in there. Don't have to be exact colour at this stage. All it is just, like I say, it's just planning it out, making sure everything's okay before I start putting heavy colour on. Now here I'm trying something what I used to do many years ago. I just used to use the brown rather than the green to get the shadows, just brown and warm red, and a bit of blue with it for a darker sort of shadow. So for quickness I just thought I'd just have a go. I'm always experimenting. I do prefer the green and red to desaturate it, and dark green and cold red for the darker areas, but I just thought I'd just try it, and it worked alright really for the underdrawing. If you're enjoying this video, why not subscribe? It's absolutely free, then you're sure not to miss any of my future videos. Now with the underdrawing, it's not about values, getting them correct, or the colour. It's all about, like I mentioned earlier, just getting things into the correct position before you start to put in that richer colour on, and getting all the values correct and all the chroma. So this is just basic structure work, laying the foundations. So just really enjoy it, and it's a chance to be really loose and sort of free flowing with it. Now toes can be very awkward to draw and paint. Now how I get around things is to not name them and just see it as light and shade and shapes, and comparing shape against the other, and keep looking at the angles, seeing how things look and how they feel. So now I'm starting to put a little bit more subtlety in there now. So I'm trying to get more and more of the actual structure correct, but I'm putting more for a pigment down to try and get a softer feel to it, because it's quite grainy at this point, and with it being baby skin, obviously it's quite soft, so you need to achieve that. So I'm putting a little bit more in there as preparation. I'm careful not to add too much pigment though, because if you press on too hard with this white pencil, what it does, it creates a milky look to it then when you try and glaze over the top. So it's just layer after layer, just building it up, but just trying to create that softer feel to it. So I'm using the olive green now to desaturate it as well. So if the red's too vibrant, adding that olive green just makes all the difference. These are the Caran d'Ache pencils I normally use for the rich colours. This stage is all about getting that vibrancy correct and that chroma. So I'm using this Caran d'Ache Chinese white first, small circles, try and get the pigment in there. Right, just a bit of real time here, just showing you how I'm using this Caran d'Ache white, just sort of freshening everything up underneath before I layer these colours on. Now lemon yellow I'm putting into the mix now. Now to get that glow and the chroma, add that little bit of lemon yellow with the vermilion red. Now I'm using the vermilion red from the Carbothello range first, but that's not rich enough, so I tend to use, if it's really vibrant, this one here, which is the Caran d'Ache vermilion red. Now for the close there, I just found some pencils which were really close to the actual colour that we're looking for, and then what you have to do then is subtle it up with using lemon yellow and blues then to get that sort of greeniness to it, and a bit of sort of alizarin crimson to create purples as well, but I'm going to be finishing that off soon, so you'll see me doing that later on. Now for the skin tone here, I'm creating now more richer and more vibrant and more subtleties. It's still a blocking stage at this point, it's not the details. Now working on the close again, so you've got to keep going backwards and forwards until you get it all sort of balanced up. So to get the colours right in the skin, I need to get the shade right in the clothes. So you sort of going from one to the other till everything sort of starts to balance up. So you're working on the whole of the picture really. So what I'm doing here is just, I'm adding that sort of Caran d'Ache white to create the freshness underneath the colour, and then when I glaze over, that colour's fresh. See, the Carbothello won't create that sort of freshness. That's why I use the Caran d'Ache pencils to create the freshness. blocking in the other leg now, just the same as what I did on the previous leg. Just want to take this opportunity to thank all my patrons for all their wonderful support every month. I can't thank you enough, it means so much to me, I really appreciate it. Now if you're interested in joining me on Patreon and would like the benefit of longer, slower and more in-depth videos, please check out the link in the description below. This painting study is on my Patreon now. It's 4 hours plus long. It's real-time audio, real-time video, so you can actually hear me and see me as I do it step by step every moment. Now for the really vibrant areas, I'm using a Rembrandt white here. Now Rembrandt sticks are really rich in vibrancy and pigment, and it makes all the difference when you want an area that needs to really shine out. So I suggest putting that down and then just subtling it up with the colours over the top. Now to blend that Rembrandt white in, I'm using the Caran d'Ache white, very small circles, and that mixes in with the pigment of the Rembrandt. That creates even more sort of vibrancy and softness. Always add some colour over the white when you put white down, so I'm using cold red here so it creates a similar colour that I'm looking for. I'd just like to give a massive thank you to Lindy's Studio for her super thanks donation. Really appreciate it, really helps me to produce these videos and create this content for you all. If you're interested in making a donation to the channel, please click on the super thanks icon which you'll find under any one of my videos. Now every single moment while I'm painting this picture, I'm opening my heart, and the more you send this energy to the image, the more the energy will shine back at you. So really what I'm trying to focus on is the aura or the energy around the baby here, and trying to connect to that and express that, and let the details just take care of themselves. So it's just a case of letting go of the mind, open the heart and just let it flow. Just using the combination of that warm vermilion red with the cold red, lemon yellow and some olive green or dark green just to desaturate it wherever it's needed. There's a close-up view of what I'm doing here with the subtleties, using a cold red from Caran d'Ache there and then mixing in the white. So I use a Carbothello white to actually blend the colours. So I'm putting that rich colour from the Caran d'Ache and then just blending it in with the white and then glaze over again to get that subtlety. So it's backwards and forwards with the white and then glaze with the colour. Slowing it down again just to show you how I'm putting the shadows in there. It's dark green from the Caran d'Ache 719, and then I'm using the cold red from the Caran d'Ache as well. This is 080, and that combination makes a really beautiful deep shadow. Now I use yellow ochre when it's not so vibrant and lemon yellow when it's more chroma. So if you find that there's areas that are not so saturated, use yellow ochre. If you find areas that are glowy, add the lemon yellow, and that makes all the difference. Now to create the softness, I'm using the Carbothello white, very small circles, and just really mixing in the pigment underneath, but not going too hard with the white, just enough that it softens things up, and then just glaze over again just to bring the colour back. If you're enjoying this video, why not give it a like and share it with your friends? It would mean so much to me, as this would help the channel to grow. Right, dropping the speed down to real time again now, so you can see how I'm achieving the details, and now I try and soften things up. Now I'm just glazing with the warm red, mixing in with the cold red which I've already put in. So you're trying to play about with different temperatures, working out what looks best, and then it's a case of desaturating some areas with the green, and just backwards and forwards really, just adding that little bit more red here, desaturating a little bit here, and just keep playing until you actually develop it. And if it's got a bit of a glow to it, just add that lemon yellow to it. So it's going from one colour pencil to the other, and it's just sort of, it's like a dance really, trying to create that sort of feeling of all these subtle colours. Again, if you find it's fresh, you need the Caran d'Ache white, so you put that down, then glaze over the top. And now if it's not so fresh, you can use the Carbothello white. So again, for the shadows, I'm using the dark green, just very small circles, and then using a cold red. This instant it's a Contia pastel one, and just experimenting, just different brands, different colours. I mean, I'm mixing a bit of warm red here against that cold red, just to sort of merge it together. You've got to keep playing really with these colours, and then I'm adding a bit of blue, look, just to make it more of a purpley red. Like I mentioned, to see the values, squint your eyes, and to see the colour, open your eyes wide. If you just flip from one to the other, it'll help you to see what needs to be done. At this point of painting, I'm forever keep looking into the mirror at the reflection, just to see it from a different angle. Also take a photograph with a mobile phone and see how it looks with that. And this all helps you to actually see what needs to be done. Right, just slowing it down again just to show you how I did the actual toenails. Just using the Carbothello white just to shape them, and then just glaze over then with red and green if you need it, if you need to desaturate it. But just a case of just keep playing. Different colour temperature here. I'm using a colder red now, and then just mixing it in very, very lightly with the Carbothello white, and just following that procedure right through. Now I'm using a colour shaper. Great to have in your kit. It's really handy when it's very fine detail and you can't just dab it with your finger. And it's a silicone tipped brush, and it just merges things together, just subtles it up very finely. Now to get that freshness again, I'm using the Caran d'Ache white and then just glazing over then with the blue to create a purpley colour. When you do these fine details at the end, really open up to the whole of the image, feel the energy, try and create how that energy feels. If there's a part of your painting that doesn't feel like it feels on the image, it needs some work on it. Not necessarily how it looks, but how it feels. So if you get the feeling right, you usually find that it starts to look right as well. I've really enjoyed this study. Thank you so much, Rebecca, for asking me to do this. If there's anything you want me to actually create for you as a study, please leave a message in the comment below. I'll really appreciate that. Here's the study at the correct angle rather than being in perspective on the easel. If you're interested in seeing any more of my work, here's some links that you might be interested in. Thanks for watching. Take care.